Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin. Memory is like a river, always moving, always reshaping the land it touches. In the quiet of your mind, there are streams that carry fragments of yesterday, guiding them into the wide sea of who you are today. You cannot see these rivers with your eyes, but you can feel their gentle flow each time a familiar scent stirs a childhood scene, or a melody brings back the warmth of a forgotten summer. The science of memory begins here, in the invisible water that runs through us all, soft and persistent. When you recall something, your brain is not opening a drawer where the past has been neatly stored. Instead, it is more like dipping a hand into the stream, pulling up shapes that shift and shimmer in the light. This stream is formed by countless neurons, each sending little sparks of electricity to another. The sparks are like drops of water, moving swiftly, carrying signals that form an image, a sound, or a feeling. This is not a solid structure but a living current, reshaping itself each time you touch it. Neuroscientists often speak of the hippocampus, a small seahorse-shaped region deep within the brain, as a guardian of memory. Imagine it as a bend in the river, a fertile delta where fresh experiences settle and take root. The hippocampus gathers new sights, sounds, and emotions, pressing them gently into patterns that can be recalled later. It is the gardener of memory, deciding which seeds will sprout and which may wash away. Without it, new rivers cannot be formed, and we are left stranded in a still pool of the present. Consider the way memory feels when you walk into a childhood home. The smell of old wood, the creak of the stairs, the faint touch of sunlight on the same windows. In that moment, your senses send signals that awaken pathways laid down long ago. Like hidden tributaries, they reconnect with the main river, and suddenly you are swept back to the age of 6, running barefoot across the hall. This is how the brain uses context to awaken memory, building bridges across time. The house has not changed as much as you have, yet the rivers carry you back effortlessly. The act of remembering is not passive. Each time we recall, we rebuild. The brain pulls fragments from many regions, a shape from vision, a tone from hearing, a warmth from emotion. The hippocampus binds them together, stitching a whole from scattered threads. But just as a river erodes its banks with each flow, our memories shift slightly with each recall. What you remember today may not be exactly what happened, but a softened version, reshaped by the tides of time and imagination. This is not failure but beauty. The brain is less a recorder and more a storyteller. Memories also live in layers. There is the short shimmer of working memory, like ripples on the water's surface holding a phone number for only a few breaths. Then there is short-term memory, where details last for minutes or hours, waiting to see if they are important enough to stay. Deeper still is long-term memory, the wide, slow-moving current that holds the story of your life. These layers interact, each feeding the other, as if a waterfall cascades from one pool to the next, deciding what flows onward and what fades into mist. Think about the first time you learned to ride a bicycle. The wobbly handlebars, the rush of wind, the laughter of someone calling from behind. At first, the memory lived only in fragments, your muscles struggling to balance, your ears filled with sound, your eyes with the dizzying spin of the world. With practice, these pieces wove together, settling deeper until the act of riding became automatic. This is procedural memory, the current that flows without words, teaching your body to remember even when your mind is quiet. It is why, even years later, you can climb on a bike and ride as though no time has passed. Procedural memory is not alone. There is also semantic memory, where facts live like pebbles collected along the shore, capital cities, the names of stars, the rules of grammar. These memories feel less like flowing rivers and more like reservoirs, holding clear water ready to be drawn when needed. Then there is episodic memory, the personal stories of who we are, rushing and sparkling like mountain streams, vivid with detail and feeling. All three weave together to form the great river of identity, carrying us forward yet always tied to the past. At times, memory surprises us by surfacing without warning. A faint perfume in the air can summon the presence of someone long gone. A chord on the piano can open a floodgate, releasing waves of recollection that soak the heart. Scientists call these cues triggers, but they feel more like secret springs bubbling beneath the soil, waiting to be touched. These springs remind us that memory is not just mechanical but deeply human, connected to the senses, to emotion, to the essence of being alive. Inside the brain, the flow of memory is powered by synapses, the tiny spaces where neurons meet. When you learn something new, these synapses strengthen as though the riverbed deepens, making it easier for water to pass again. This process is called long-term potentiation, a phrase that may sound heavy, but means simply that practice makes pathways stronger. Like a trail carved by footsteps, the more often you walk it, the clearer it becomes. With time, what was once fragile becomes sturdy, allowing a memory to endure for years. But rivers are not eternal. Just as streams dry or shift course, some memories fade. This is natural, for the brain is not meant to hold everything. Forgetting allows room for the new, preventing us from drowning in the past. Yet even as some memories vanish, traces remain in the soil, faint patterns that shape the ground beneath new rivers. This is why forgotten languages, when heard again, can feel strangely familiar. The channels are still there, hidden beneath the surface, waiting for rain to fall again. Now imagine the mystery of sleep, where memory takes on a different form. As the body rests, the rivers of the mind are busy, replaying patterns, reinforcing what was learned during the day. Dreams are the drifting boats on these waters, sometimes carrying fragments of truth, sometimes empty reflections of the stars above. Sleep is where the hippocampus whispers to the rest of the brain. Keep this, let that go. It is the quiet editor of a memory, shaping tomorrow's river from tonight's flow. The poetry of memory is that it is both fragile and strong. A single accident can wipe away decades, leaving a person adrift. Yet a simple phrase can awaken love that has lasted a lifetime. Memory is the echo of our existence, the flowing water that ensures we are not merely bodies moving through time, but souls shaped by stories. Each person is a river unique, fed by countless streams, branching into endless patterns, yet always moving toward the ocean of life. The science of memory tells us about neurons and synapses, but the experience of memory tells us about meaning. We remember not only facts but feelings, not only events but the colours of the sky, the taste of the air, the warmth of a touch. These details are what make the rivers glisten, what give them depth and beauty. To understand memory is not just to study its mechanics, but to drift upon its waters, to listen to the gentle current as it carries us through the story of being human. And so as you sit quietly, you might feel the rivers within you. They are not loud, not demanding, but soft and steady, flowing beneath thought, shaping the ground of your mind. They carry the laughter of childhood, the trials of youth, the tenderness of love, the lessons of sorrow. They remind you that you are more than this moment alone. You are the sum of countless moments, flowing endlessly into now. These are the rivers of memory, and they will keep flowing even as the landscape changes, even as time drifts on. If the first touch of memory is like finding a river's surface, then to go deeper is to follow its currents down into hidden valleys, where time and thought weave together. Beneath the gentle flow lies a network as intricate as the roots of an ancient forest. Each branch of the river is a connection between neurons, each root a thread holding one moment to another. It is here, in these branching networks, that the richness of remembering truly unfolds. The hippocampus plants the seeds, but it is the wider brain that nurtures the garden, turning single events into lifelong narratives. When you recall a birthday, your mind does not bring forth only a candle or a voice. It calls upon vision to paint the glow of the flame, upon hearing to echo the song, upon smell to carry the sweetness of cake, upon touch to feel the warmth of a hand on your shoulder. These pieces, scattered across different regions of the brain, are brought together through patterns of synchrony, much like musicians in an orchestra aligning to the same rhythm. The hippocampus acts as a conductor, waving its silent baton, guiding the fragments until they play as one. Memory is not only what you hold, but the harmony of what is held together. To understand how this harmony forms, scientists often speak of plasticity, the brain's quiet ability to reshape itself with each experience. Unlike stone, the brain is clay, soft and moldable, taking the impression of what passes through it. Each new memory lays down a faint track, like footsteps in wet sand. If repeated, the track deepens. If neglected, the tide of time may wash it away. This plasticity is what allows a child to absorb languages with ease, or an adult to learn a new skill after years of routine. It is the river's gift, always able to carve a new path, always ready to flow in directions not yet taken. Yet memory is not merely about remembering, it is also about knowing where to place each piece, how to weave meaning from the fragments. The prefrontal cortex, just behind the forehead, serves as a gentle archivist, deciding what is relevant, what is useful, what must be stored more carefully. Imagine it as a librarian who gathers the volumes carried in by the river, labeling some, shelving others, leaving a few in the waiting area to be reconsidered later. This process is not rushed but ongoing, shaped by attention, emotion, and need. Without it, the river would spill chaotically, overflowing without form. Emotion is one of the strongest guides in this process. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure, gives memories colour and weight. Joy, fear, love, sorrow. These emotions act like dyes dropped into the water, staining certain memories with hues that last longer. This is why we remember where we were during moments of great happiness or tragedy. Why the first blush of love or the shock of loss etches itself so vividly into us. Emotion tells the river, this matters. Hold on to this. It is both a compass and an anchor, making sure that memory is not only knowledge but experience. Think of a lullaby sung to you as a child. The words may have faded, the exact night forgotten, but the warmth of safety, the rhythm of comfort, the softness of the voice remain. These are emotional imprints. carried not just in the hippocampus but in the amygdala, fused into the memory's very shape. Scientists can measure the heightened activity when emotion accompanies learning, but beyond the numbers lies something more profound. The truth that we are shaped most deeply not by what we know, but by how it made us feel. The river carries facts, but feelings give it depth. Sometimes memory feels like an echo rather than a stream. You may reach for a name on the tip of your tongue, sense it just beyond grasp, like a ripple just out of reach. This phenomenon shows how memory retrieval works, not as a perfect recall, but as a search through pathways, some strong, some faint. The more a path has been walked, the easier the journey, the less, the more difficult. In these moments, hints, a first letter, a related thought, act like stepping stones, helping you cross the river until the name appears, clear and whole. It is not magic but connection, the quiet strength of pathways waiting to be followed. Repetition and rehearsal strengthen these pathways. This is why students recite lessons, musicians practice scales, poets repeat lines until they settle into the bones. Each repetition deepens the groove, making the water flow more easily. But more than mere repetition, the way we connect new knowledge to old matters most. When you tie a new fact to something already known, the river widens, branching into a stronger stream. A foreign word attached to a familiar image, a scientific principle tied to a personal story. These connections transform the fragile into the lasting. Learning is not only storing but weaving, threading the new into the tapestry of the old. As the brain weaves, it does not always weave accurately. Memories bend, twist, and sometimes alter with each retelling. Psychologists call this reconstructive memory, but you might think of it as the river carrying leaves downstream, their edges fraying with each mile. Stories told and retold shift slightly, shaped by the teller, by the moment, by the mood. This is why siblings remember the same childhood differently, why eyewitness accounts vary, why the past feels both certain and uncertain at once. The river is true to its course, but the water is never the same twice. This bending of memory has both beauty and risk. On one hand, it allows us to reinterpret our past, to soften the edges of pain, to cherish the highlights. On the other, it can blur truth, making us sure of things that never happened. The balance lies in understanding that memory is not a photograph, but a painting retouched by time. Scientists use experiments to show how easily false memories can be planted, how confidently people can recall things that never occurred. Yet within this fragility lies resilience. For memory's purpose is not perfect accuracy, but survival, growth, identity. The river's flow is meant to nourish, not to preserve each drop unaltered. Consider collective memory, the way communities and cultures remember together. Stories told across generations become shared rivers, carrying values, traditions, lessons. Though each individual's memory is personal, together they form a great delta, shaping societies. Rituals, songs, monuments, all serve as stones placed in the current, guiding the flow of remembrance. Science meets poetry here, for memory is both neurons firing in a single brain and millions of voices carrying the same song through time. The hippocampus holds your personal story, but culture holds the story of us all. The question arises, why do some memories endure effortlessly while others vanish? Part of the answer lies in attention. What we notice, we remember. What we overlook, we forget. Attention is like sunlight on the river, warming certain stretches, leaving others in shadow. Practice focusing, and the river grows clearer. Let it wander, and much slips past unseen. This is why mindfulness, simple awareness of the present, strengthen memory. To truly see, hear, feel into the moment is to give the hippocampus richer material, stronger impressions to store. Memory begins not in recall, but in presence. Sleep deepens this presence. When we drift into slumber, the brain replays patterns of the day, like rivers looping back on themselves. Neurons fire in sequences that echo waking experience, embedding what was fragile into firmer ground. Experiments with students show that those who sleep after learning recall better than those who do not. It is as though the night air carries whispers to the river, telling it which paths to deepen, which to let dissolve. Dreams, strange and shimmering, may be the visible mist of this unseen process, fragments of memory rearranging as the brain tends its waters. Even forgetting has its gifts. If we remembered every detail, every face, every passing sound, life would be overwhelming. Forgetting prunes the river's banks, letting only the strongest, most meaningful currents flow. Scientists call this adaptive forgetting, a way the brain stays efficient, creative, open to new experiences. Imagine a forest where every fallen leaf remained forever. Soon the forest would choke. In the same way, forgetting clears the way for growth. We lose some moments, but in their absence we gain space for the present to bloom. Memory also links us to imagination. The same regions that recall the past are used to imagine the future. When you picture tomorrow's sunrise or dream of a journey you have not yet taken, the brain activates similar pathways as when you remember yesterday. It is as if the river flows both backward and forward, carrying not just what has been, but what might be. This blending allows us to plan, to hope, to create stories beyond experience. Memory is the clay from which imagination shapes castles, bridges, and possibilities. In illness, the river reminds us of its fragility. Alzheimer's disease, dementia, trauma, these conditions disrupt the flow, eroding banks, damming currents, leaving gaps where once the water ran freely. To witness it is heartbreaking, to feel it terrifying. Yet even in such moments, the emotional core often lingers. A patient may forget names but respond to a song. They may lose the story but still feel love in a touch. The river weakens, but some springs remain, proof of the deep intertwining of memory and feeling. This resilience shows that memory is more than data. It is essence carried in ways science is only beginning to grasp. To reflect on memory is to realize that we are never standing still. We are rivers in motion, shaped by the flow of experience, reshaped each time we dip into the current. The more we learn, the wider the river grows. The more we feel, the deeper it runs. It is both delicate and powerful, fragile and eternal, shaping not only who we are, but who we will become. To know memory is to understand that we are not just beings in time, but time itself, flowing endlessly through mind and heart. To bring the river of memory to its quiet conclusion, let us drift more slowly now, as though following the water toward its meeting with the sea. The river has carried us from the first spark of recall, through the weaving of emotion and meaning, into the wide currents of imagination and forgetting. Now we come to reflect on what these waters truly offer, not only a way to hold the past, but a way to understand ourselves, to find continuity in a world that is always changing. Memory is the thread of identity, the gentle hand that says, "You are still you, even as time moves on." When you awaken each morning, you do not need to relearn who you are. The river of memory flows quietly through the night, bringing you back to yourself with the first light. It whispers your name, recalls the shape of your room, the faces of those you love. Without it, each day would be a beginning without continuation, an endless series of strangers and unfamiliar places. This continuity is not something we often notice, but it is the quiet miracle of existence, the ability to recognize life as a story, not a collection of isolated scenes. Memory is the binding that turns pages into a book. Yet memory is not only for the past, it prepares us for the present, equips us for the future. A child learns to walk, and that memory guides every step thereafter. An adult remembers mistakes, and those lessons shape wiser choices. Memory is a lantern we carry forward, lighting the road ahead with the glow of what has already been. Without it, we would stumble endlessly. With it, we can plan, hope, imagine. To remember is to be able to dream, for the future is drawn from the patterns of the past. The science of prediction shows this clearly. When you imagine what might happen tomorrow, the same brain regions that recall yesterday light up. The hippocampus and prefrontal cortex work together, weaving old experiences into possible futures. If you remember how a friend smiled when you offered kindness, you can imagine how kindness will be received again. If you recall the path of the sun across the sky, you can predict where it will set tonight. This ability to project forward is one of memory's greatest gifts. It allows us not only to survive, but to create, to build bridges where there were none, to chart journeys across unknown seas. But the river of the memory does more than help us navigate. It gives depth to meaning itself. Imagine listening to a song you have heard many times before. The notes are the same as yesterday, yet they stir you differently because they carry the weight of moments when you last heard them. A song played during love, during sorrow, during hope, it becomes a vessel, carrying those emotions back each time. The present moment is richer because the river brings the past into it. Without memory, life would be shallow, each experience disconnected. With memory, life becomes layered, textured, luminous with resonance. This resonance shapes our sense of self. Who you believe yourself to be is woven from countless remembered moments. Your first triumph, your hardest loss, the encouragement that carried you, the mistake that taught you. These are the stones that shape the river's path, directing where it flows. Even if memory bends and shifts, even if details are blurred, the essence remains. You are the river, and the river is you. To lose memory is to lose pieces of identity, which is why diseases that take it are so painful, not only for the one who forgets, but for those who watch. The river weakens, but the longing for its flow remains. And yet, even in forgetting, there is kindness. The sharpness of pain can soften with time. The brightness of grief can mellow into gentle remembrance. Memory allows wounds to heal by fading their intensity, while leaving behind the lessons. This is not betrayal, but compassion, the river carrying away what is too heavy to hold forever. We may wish to keep joy vivid, but even joy mellows, settling into a glow rather than a blaze. In this balance, life becomes bearable. Memory protects us, not only by keeping but by letting go. There is also beauty in the mystery of what we cannot remember. The first years of life, the dreams that vanish on waking, the countless faces passed in crowds, all flow into the vast ocean of forgetting. Though we may mourn their loss, they are not wasted. They enrich the river beneath awareness, shaping currents we cannot see. The languages of infancy influence the sounds we can later pronounce. The forgotten faces may teach us subtle instincts about people. The dreams that fade may still leave ripples in mood and creativity. Memory is never truly lost. It is transformed, absorbed into the water itself. Science continues to uncover the intricacies of this transformation. Researchers trace the flow of proteins, the strengthening of synapses, the chemical dances that underlie memory consolidation. They measure brainwaves during sleep, observe neurons firing in rhythm, map connections with dazzling precision. Yet for all this detail, the essence of memory remains more poetic than mechanical. To know that a protein changes shape is not the same as knowing what it feels like to smell the rain after years apart from a childhood town. The river can be studied, but to drift upon it is another matter entirely. As we drift, it is worth noticing how memory connects us not only to ourselves but to each other. Shared memories bind families, friendships, communities. When people gather to tell stories, they weave their rivers together, creating a larger flow. These collective memories shape traditions, languages, identities. They give us belonging, reminding us that we are not alone in time. Even when individuals forget, communities remember. History, art, ritual, these are reservoirs where memory is stored beyond the limits of a single mind. In this way, the river is never confined. It expands into something greater than us all. Perhaps the most profound aspect of memory is its ability to awaken presence. To recall a moment deeply is to feel it again, as though time folds. When you close your eyes and remember a sunset, you can almost see the glow, almost feel the warmth, almost hear the hush of evening. The brain does not fully distinguish between vivid memory and present perception. This blending is why visualization strengthens skills, why remembering love brings comfort, why recalling peace can calm the heart. Memory allows us to live more than once, to taste eternity in fragments. And so, as the river of memory approaches its end in this story, we see it for what it is. Not a perfect archive, but a living current. It is shaped by science and stirred by emotion, fragile in detail yet unbreakable in essence. It connects past, present and future, self and other, joy and sorrow. It is the water of consciousness, the continuity of being. When we follow its course, we understand ourselves more deeply, and when we rest beside its banks, we find peace in knowing that we are carried, always carried, by something greater than ourselves. Close your eyes now and imagine the river within you. Feel its quiet persistence, the way it winds through every corner of your life. Hear its gentle song, composed of laughter, tears, whispers, and silence. Sense its flow, never still, never lost. This is memory, your oldest companion, your softest guide, your river leading toward the endless sea. And though the waters may change, though details may blur, the current remains steady and true, carrying you always forward, carrying you always home. Memory often feels like a fabric stretched across time, woven from threads so fine that we cannot see them, yet strong enough to hold the weight of who we are. Each day adds a new strand, each experience a new colour, each emotion a new texture. These threads do not lie flat, they loop, knot and twist, binding yesterday to today and today to tomorrow. To reflect on memory in this way is to realize that our lives are not made of isolated moments, but of patterns, repeated and reshaped, forming a tapestry that grows as we do. Imagine a loom hidden inside the mind, where neurons are the spindles, and synapses are the spaces where threads meet. Every time you learn, remember, or feel, the loom moves, pulling fibers across one another, tightening their hold. This weaving is constant, quiet, and unconscious. You do not need to command it. It happens as you walk, breathe, dream. Scientists call this process neural connectivity, but in truth, it is more like artistry, a patient weaving of countless strands. Over time, these woven networks become stronger, forming the foundation upon which your thoughts and identity rest. What makes this weaving so extraordinary is its ability to hold both fragility and strength. A single thread can fray, a detail can fade, yet the larger fabric remains. You may forget the colour of a childhood toy, but you remember the joy it brought. You may forget the words spoken long ago, but you recall the feeling of comfort in someone's voice. The brain does not need every detail to preserve the essence. Just as a tapestry can lose one thread without losing its image, memory holds on to meaning even when details dissolve. This is how identity endures through change. Consider how yesterday carries itself into today. When you wake, the simple act of recognizing your surroundings is memory at work. You know the sound of your door, the shape of your bed, the way the morning light falls across the room. These are threads pulled from the past into the present, guiding you gently into continuity. Without them, each morning would be foreign. With them, you begin not from emptiness, but from familiarity. This continuity gives life a sense of belonging, a flow rather than fragments. Memory tells you you've been here before, and you are still here now. These threads also shape how we learn. When you acquire new knowledge, it is not stored alone, but woven into what you already know. A new word in a language attaches itself to words you already speak. A new skill joins hands with movements you have practiced. The brain searches for connections because isolated information is fragile. A single thread is easily broken. A woven thread holds. This is why metaphors, analogies, and stories are so powerful in learning. They allow new strands to tie themselves to the familiar patterns, strengthening the whole. Education is not about memorizing, but weaving. Emotion dyes these threads with color. A lesson learned in joy may glow brightly for years, while one learned in fear may darken the fabric, leaving shadows that never fade. The amygdala, with its role in emotional memory, ensures that certain strands are stained more deeply. This is why you may remember exactly where you were when something extraordinary happened, but forget countless ordinary days. Emotion tells the brain, "This is important. Make it strong, make it lasting." In this way, our tapestry is not neutral, but alive with colours chosen by feeling. The fabric of memory is as vibrant as the heart that beats through it. Time itself does not weaken these threads as much as it reshapes them. Just as fabric becomes soft with age, memory becomes gentler, less sharp. Details may blur, but the overall image remains. Scientists have shown that memory is reconstructive, that we rebuild the past each time we recall it. In the weaving metaphor, this means that each time we pull on a thread, we may adjust its position, tighten its knot, or even alter its hue. Over years, the tapestry is not a fixed image, but a living one, reflecting not only what happened, but who we have become since then. This living quality is why two people may share the same event but remember it differently. Each has their own loom, their own threads, their own emotional dyes. One may recall joy, the other fear, even in the same moment. This does not mean one is right and the other wrong. It means memory is personal, subjective, woven into identity. Science recognizes this through the study of perspective and bias in recall, but beyond science lies a gentle truth. Memory is as much about meaning as it is about fact. The tapestry reflects the weaver as much as the world. Sometimes the threads stretch across great distances in time. A smell, a song, a phrase can pull yesterday suddenly into today, vivid and immediate. This is the magic of associative memory, where one thread tugs another and the fabric folds so that distant moments touch. You may walk into a kitchen and smell cinnamon, and suddenly you are a child again, watching a grandparent bake. The years collapse, the tapestry folds. These moments remind us that the past is never far. It is always woven into the present, ready to surface when called. The process of weaving memory is deeply tied to repetition and rehearsal. Just as fabric is strengthened by layers, memory is made durable by revisiting. A lesson repeated, a skill practiced, a story retold. Each time the threads are tightened. But weaving is not mechanical repetition alone. It is also imaginative recombination. When you use memories creatively, telling them in new ways, connecting them to new insights, you weave a stronger, more intricate tapestry. This is why storytelling is so powerful. It is not just remembering, but reweaving, making the fabric richer with each telling. Weaving also explains why forgetting is natural and necessary. Not every thread must endure. Some strands fade into the background, creating space for new colours and patterns. If we remembered everything, the fabric would be tangled and overwhelming, impossible to carry. Forgetting prunes the tapestry, allowing the most meaningful patterns to shine. Science calls this synaptic pruning, but it feels more like editing. A gentle hand removing excess so that the design is clearer. To forget is not failure but refinement, an essential part of how memory maintains balance. In dreams, the loom works in scenes, weaving without our awareness. The day's experiences are sorted, replayed, strengthened or dissolved. Sleep is when the weaver is busiest, reinforcing the knots that matter most. Dreams are the faint images left behind, glimpses of threads being tied. This is why sleep improves memory, why rest is as vital to learning as study itself. The loom cannot work endlessly. It must pause, then weave in the quiet of night. In this way, our tapestry grows stronger even as we sleep. The beauty of this weaving is that it extends beyond the individual. Families share threads, communities weave collective fabrics. A song known by many, a story told across generations, a ritual repeated each year. These are threads that connect not only moments but people. Cultural memory is a vast loom, weaving together countless strands from countless lives. It is why traditions endure, why history shapes identity, why we feel belonging in places where stories are shared. Each personal tapestry is unique, but all are tied to the greater fabric of humanity. And so, the threads that tie yesterday to today are not only scientific but deeply human. They are synapses firing, proteins reshaping, but they are also laughter, sorrow, love, hope. Each strand is both biology and poetry, both neuron and metaphor. To understand memory as weaving is to honour both aspects, the precision of science and the softness of experience. Together they show us that we are not isolated moments, but patterns of time held gently by threads that grow more intricate with each passing day. Close your eyes and imagine your own tapestry. See the bright strands of joy, the darker shades of struggle, the golden threads of love that shine even in shadow. Notice how they intertwine, how no single strand stands alone, how together they create something far greater than the sum of parts. This is who you are, not only today but across all your yesterdays. And tomorrow more threads will join, more colours will be added, more patterns will emerge. The weaving never stops, the tapestry is always becoming, and in this endless weaving life finds its meaning. When we look more closely at the threads that tie yesterday to today, we begin to see that not all strands are woven the same way. Some are strong, stretching across years without fraying, while others are delicate, breaking with the slightest pull. What gives these threads their strength is not only repetition, but the meaning attached to them. The mind is not a neutral loom weaving without preference. It is a selective weaver, choosing which fibres to strengthen, which to let fade. This selectivity is what allows us to carry the essentials of our story forward, while letting the less important details slip quietly into forgetting. Scientists often describe this process in terms of consolidation. When you experience something new, it is first fragile, like a loose thread resting across the loom. If it is revisited, rethought, or emotionally significant, the hippocampus works with other brain regions to weave it more securely into long-term storage. Over hours and days, proteins reshape themselves, synapses strengthen, and the thread becomes part of the larger tapestry. This is why experiences followed by sleep or reflection endure, while fleeting impressions without weight or connection vanish. The loom does not waste effort on every passing strand. It works with patience, selecting what matters. The role of meaning becomes clear when we consider why we remember some events so vividly. A first kiss, a graduation, the loss of someone dear, these are not remembered for their factual details alone, but for the significance they carried. The amygdala, colouring the thread with emotion, signals to the hippocampus, we must keep this. The brain then weaves more tightly, binding the thread deeply. That is why you may forget what you ate for breakfast last week, but never the moment when love or grief reshaped your life. It is not the thread itself, but the dye within it that ensures its endurance. Memory also has a social dimension. We do not weave alone, we weave together. When we tell stories to others, when we share our experiences, the act of narration strengthens our own memory, while also tying our threads to someone else's tapestry. A child who hears family stories learns not only about ancestors but also about belonging. Friends who recall adventures together reinforce not only the event but the bond between them. Neuroscientists call this rehearsal, but in truth it is more like communal weaving, where threads cross from one loom to another, creating a fabric larger than any individual. Think of how families repeat certain tales, of hardships endured, of joys celebrated. Each retelling is a tightening of the weave, ensuring that the thread does not loosen. Even if one person forgets, another remembers, carrying the pattern forward. This collective weaving creates continuity across generations. Traditions, rituals, and shared memories are strands passed from hand to hand, tying the past to the present in ways no individual memory could achieve alone. The science may describe this as cultural transmission, but it feels more like a gift, a thread offered from yesterday to today. The threads of memory also tie together different parts of the self. Within you lives the child you once were, the youth you became, the adult you are now. Memory binds these selves together, so that you do not feel like many separate beings but one continuous presence. When you remember playing beneath the trees as a child, you do not see that child as a stranger. You recognize them as yourself, woven into your current being. This sense of personal continuity is one of memory's deepest roles, allowing us to feel like a single unfolding story rather than a scattered collection of moments. And yet this continuity is not flawless. Sometimes the threads loosen, creating gaps. You may struggle to remember a year, a place, a detail, and in that gap, you feel the fragility of the fabric. Trauma can tear the weave, leaving holes where memories should be. Illness can unravel whole sections, as in dementia. But even here, some threads remain. Often, emotional strands survive longer than factual ones. A person may forget a name but still recognize the warmth of a smile. They may not recall the date, but the feeling of love persists. The deepest dyes of memory endure even when the fabric frays. The science of memory distortion reminds us that even intact threads can be altered. Each time we recall, we may adjust the weave slightly, sometimes without realizing. A detail added here, a shift in color there, until over time the memory is not exactly as it once was. This is not deceit but reconstruction, the brain's way of keeping memory flexible. In doing so, it allows us to reinterpret the past in light of the present, to soften old pain, to reframe old lessons. The fabric changes as we change, reflecting not only who we were but who we are now. This dynamic quality of memory is why therapy, storytelling, and reflection can heal. When we revisit painful memories, we do not only recall them, we can also reweave them, attaching them to new meanings. A loss once felt as abandonment can, over time, be remembered as resilience. A mistake once felt as shame can be reframed as growth. Science describes this as reconsolidation, but in the metaphor of weaving, it is simply the act of loosening old knots and tying them again in gentler patterns. In this way, yesterday is not only tied to today, it is reshaped by it. Consider the role of imagination in this weaving. The same threads that carry memory also allow us to envision the future. When you imagine what tomorrow might bring, your brain uses the same loom, the same fibers. This overlap explains why people with memory loss often struggle with imagining the future. Without the threads of the past, there are fewer fibers to project forward. Memory is not only about what has been, it is also the material from which we weave what might be. The river of yesterday's threads feeds the loom of tomorrow's dreams. Learning demonstrates this vividly. Each new lesson must tie itself to an old thread, or it risks unraveling. A fact without context is fragile. A fact woven into a story becomes strong. Teachers who connect knowledge to experiences, who show how one thread ties to another, help students weave more enduring fabrics. This is why storytelling is such a powerful tool in education. It transforms isolated information into woven meaning. The loom of the brain is always searching for threads to connect, and when it finds them, the weave grows strong and beautiful. Sleep once again plays its part in this weaving. During slow wave sleep, the brain replays patterns of the day, strengthening synaptic connections, ensuring that fragile threads are reinforced. In dreams, the loom works creatively, sometimes weaving unrelated strands together. This may explain why dreams feel strange, mixing fragments of reality into new shapes. Yet even this strangeness has purpose. By testing new combinations, the loom explores new patterns, perhaps preparing the brain for challenges to come. In this way, even the surreal fabric of dreams contributes to the larger tapestry of memory. The fragility and resilience of memory threads remind us that life is precious. We are not guaranteed to remember everything, and that is part of the wonder. What endures, what fades, what returns unexpectedly, all of this gives texture to existence. The unpredictability of memory makes each moment valuable, for we do not know which threads will last. A simple afternoon may become a lifelong memory. A grand event may vanish into the mist. What matters most is not controlling the weave, but living in such a way that the fabric, however incomplete, is rich with meaning. And so the threads of memory continue their quiet work, tying yesterday to today. They are strengthened by repetition, coloured by emotion, shaped by meaning, and softened by time. They are shared across families, across cultures, across generations. They hold us together as individuals, as communities, as humanity itself. Each thread is fragile, but together they create a fabric that endures. To honour memory is to honour this weaving, to care for the loom, to notice the patterns that emerge. In doing so, we see not only the science of neurons and synapses, but the poetry of connection and continuity. Close your eyes and picture your own loom. See the thread stretching backward, carrying laughter, sorrow, lessons, love. See how they meet in the present, tying themselves to new experiences. See how they extend forward, ready to shape tomorrow. This is the miracle of memory. Not static storage, but living weaving, tying time together in a fabric that is always unfinished, always becoming. And in that endless weaving, we find ourselves not only as beings who remember, but as beings who belong to yesterday, to today, to the infinite continuity of life. The tapestry of memory does not end with the present moment. It continues to expand, each thread weaving itself into patterns that will shape the future. To see memory as weaving is to recognize that our identity is always under construction, always shifting, always becoming. The fabric is never finished. Each day adds new strands, while older ones fade, twist, or strengthen. What results is not a perfect pattern, but a living one, a cloth that changes with light and time, reflecting the journey of the soul as much as the mechanics of the brain. At the heart of this weaving lies continuity, the sense that yesterday is tied to today, and today will extend into tomorrow. This continuity is what allows us to tell our story. Without it, life would be a scattering of moments with no thread to bind them. Imagine picking up beads but having no string. You could admire their colour but never wear them. Memory is the string, the thread that turns experiences into something that can be carried, cherished, shared. It is what allows you to say not only I was and I am, but also I will be. The loom ties time together so that you may walk through it as one person rather than many. But continuity does not mean permanence. Threads can be cut, patterns disrupted. Memory reminds us that life is fragile, that forgetting is as real as remembering. Yet even in loss, continuity remains in unexpected ways. A song can stir recognition in someone who has forgotten faces. A gesture can awaken comfort in one who no longer recalls words. These remnants show that the deepest threads run beyond conscious recall, anchored in the emotional core. They are the golden strands dyed so deeply that even when the weave unravels, they remain visible, glowing faintly in the fading cloth. To honour memory is to tend this fabric with care, We strengthen it through learning, through repetition, through presence. We enrich it through emotion, through meaning, through sharing. We soften it through forgiveness, allowing painful threads to be rewoven into gentler patterns. Each of these acts is both scientific and poetic, the strengthening of synapses, the colouring of experiences, the reshaping of narratives. To live mindfully is to weave mindfully, to notice the threads as they pass through our hands, to choose colours that bring warmth, to tie knots that hold with kindness. Science helps us understand this process with precision. Researchers map the hippocampus, trace neural pathways, measure synaptic changes. They describe how proteins shift shape, how electrical currents spark connections, how sleep consolidates fragile strands into enduring ones. They show us the mechanics of the loom. Yet science also acknowledges what it cannot fully capture: the lived richness of memory, the way it feels to recall a first love, to relive a childhood adventure, to ache with the memory of loss. These cannot be reduced to chemistry alone, for they are threads woven not only in the brain but in the heart. The poetry of memory lies in its dual nature, both reliable and fragile, both scientific and mysterious. We can count on it to carry us through daily life, to help us recognize faces, navigate streets, speak languages, and yet we know it can fail, distort, deceive. This duality makes memory both precious and humbling. It reminds us that we are not machines storing data, but living beings weaving meaning. Each remembered moment is not only information but connection, a thread tying us to ourselves, to others, to time itself. This connection extends outward, shaping not only individual identity but shared identity. When a culture remembers its history, it weaves a collective fabric that gives people belonging. When communities recall their struggles and triumphs, they strengthen bonds across generations. Monuments, rituals, and traditions are like knots in this shared cloth, holding stories in place so they're not lost. Even if individuals forget, the group remembers, and when individuals remember together, their separate threads cross, reinforcing one another, creating patterns stronger than any single loom could produce. This is why we feel at home when we hear the stories of our people, why we feel continuity not only within ourselves, but within humanity. Memory also ties us to the natural world. The cycles of seasons, the migration of birds, the blooming of flowers, all are patterns remembered by life itself. Just as neurons remember through repeated firing, nature remembers through repeated rhythms. Plants remember light, storing the memory of hours in their leaves. Animals remember paths guided by instinct and inherited wisdom. Even the earth carries memory, in layers of rock, in rings of trees, in the slow carving of rivers. We are part of this larger fabric, threads woven into the tapestry of life. Our personal memories echo these deeper patterns, tying us to yesterday not only in our own story, but in the story of the world. At times, memory is a gift of comfort. When we feel lost, recalling a moment of love can anchor us. When we face hardship, remembering resilience can steady us. The loom carries these threads quietly, ready to be pulled forward when needed. At other times, memory can be a burden, holding painful strands too tightly. But even then, the fabric can be rewoven. Therapy, reflection, forgiveness, all are ways of loosening knots and tying them anew. The tapestry is never fixed. It can be reshaped, lightened, made softer. Memory in its fluidity allows healing. Imagination is the loom's companion. Without imagination, memory would be static, unchanging. But because the same regions of the brain that remember also imagine, we can weave threads not only as they were, but as they could be. We can envision futures, reinterpret pasts, create patterns never yet seen. This is the creativity of the mind, to take the threads of yesterday and tie them into designs for tomorrow. A poet uses memory to shape verse, a painter to guide colour, a scientist to build theory. Imagination extends memory beyond recall, transforming it into creation. The threads that tie yesterday to today also tie us to eternity. For even when we are gone, our threads remain in the fabrics of others. The stories we told, the love we gave, the lessons we shared all continue to weave through the looms of those who remember us. This is why legacy matters, why kindness ripples beyond a lifetime, why traditions endure. Memory is not only personal but generational. The fabric we weave is passed down, expanded, reshaped, carrying pieces of us into times we will never see. Yesterday ties to today, and today ties to countless tomorrows. To reflect on memory in this way is to find peace. We do not need to remember everything to live fully. We need only enough threads to feel continuity, to find meaning, to carry love. The rest may fade as threads naturally do, leaving space for new patterns. Forgetting is not erasure but transformation, part of the loom's rhythm. What remains is what matters, and what matters is enough. Memory reminds us that life is not measured by what we hold, but by what we weave, by the fabric of meaning we leave behind. So let us sit quietly for a moment, imagining the threads within us. See them shimmering, stretched across time, dyed with the colours of joy and sorrow, love and loss. Feel them binding yesterday to today, carrying your story forward. Know that as long as these threads exist, you are never lost in time. You're always connected, always woven, always part of the great tapestry of life. And even when your own loom grows still, your threads will remain, tied to the fabrics of others, glowing faintly in the eternal cloth. This is the gift of memory, the endless weaving of yesterday into today, and today into forever. Deep inside the human brain lies a small structure shaped like a seahorse, curled gently in the folds of the memory. Scientists call it the hippocampus, but you might imagine it instead as a hidden garden, where experiences are planted as seeds and nurtured into lasting growth. Every moment you live is like a seed falling into this soil. Some sprout quickly, blooming into vivid memories that stay with you for years. Others remain dormant, waiting for the right season to emerge. And some, never finding root, dissolve quietly back into the earth. This garden is the birthplace of memory, the tender ground where our past begins to take shape. The hippocampus is small, no larger than a pair of thumbs, yet its role is vast. Without it, we could not form new memories, could not carry today into tomorrow. Patients who have lost their hippocampus through injury or illness find themselves adrift in the present, able to recall the distant past but unable to plant new seeds. They may meet someone, smile, converse, but minutes later the encounter has slipped away as though nothing was ever sown. This reveals the garden's importance. It is not only a keeper of memory but a giver of continuity, ensuring that life does not scatter into endless beginnings. Picture the hippocampus as soil enriched by countless connections. Neurons sprout like roots, intertwining beneath the surface, carrying nutrients of information to growing plants of memory. Each root is a synapse, each connection a channel through which experience flows. When something meaningful happens, chemicals rush in like rain, strengthening the roots, encouraging growth. Over time, these roots become deeper, making the plant sturdier. A fleeting thought may wilt, but a lesson repeated, an emotion felt strongly, a moment lived fully, these flourish into trees that endure. This is why practice, emotion, and attention are the water and sunlight of memory's garden. The hippocampus does not work alone. Like a gardener with helpers, it communicates with other parts of the brain. The sensory cortices bring in raw materials, sights, sounds, smells. The amygdala brings the warmth or sting of emotion, painting each seed with colour. The prefrontal cortex helps decide which plants are worth tending, which should be left to wither. Together they transform the soil of experience into living memory. It is a cooperative garden where each helper plays a role in shaping what will grow and what will fade. Without this teamwork, the soil would be barren, seeds scattered without care. Think of a moment when you entered a new place, perhaps the first day at school or the first step into a city you had never seen before. At that instant, the hippocampus was alive with activity, taking in the arrangement of buildings, the tone of voices, the rhythm of footsteps, the weight of emotion. Seeds were sown with every detail. Some grew into strong recollections you can still summon clearly, while others fell away. If you revisited that place often, the plants were watered, the roots strengthened, until the memory became a thriving grove. If not, the garden allowed the less important seeds to fade, making room for new growth. One of the garden's most remarkable features is its ability to reorganize itself. Unlike many parts of the brain, the hippocampus can generate new neurons, a process called neurogenesis. This means that the soil is continually renewed, able to support fresh seeds throughout life. Though this capacity diminishes with age, it never disappears completely. Exercise, learning, and rich experiences encourage new growth, while stress and isolation can dry the soil, making it harder for seeds to take root. This balance shows us that the garden is not only biological but deeply tied to how we live. The choices we make, what we learn, how we rest, who we love, shape the fertility of the hippocampal soil. In this garden, memories are not planted whole but in pieces. A single event is broken into fragments, sight here, sound there, emotion elsewhere, then carefully bound together. The hippocampus ties these fragments into a bundle, like twine around flowers, so that when you recall one part, the others bloom alongside it. This is why smelling a certain perfume can summon an entire evening, or hearing a song can bring back a whole chapter of life. The hippocampus does not store the memory itself, but acts as the gardener's string, binding the elements together so they can bloom in unison when recalled. The fragility of this system becomes clear when the gardener falters. In Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia, the hippocampus is one of the first regions to suffer. The soil becomes less fertile, the roots weaken, the plants wither. Recent memories fade first, while older, sturdier trees sometimes remain. Families witness their loved ones lose the ability to plant new seeds, living only among the older growth. It is a painful reminder that the garden, though beautiful, is delicate. Yet even here, moments of light break through. A song, a touch, a familiar smell can still awaken blossoms, showing that the gardener's work is never completely lost. Science teaches us much about this garden, but the poetry of it is felt in lived experience. When you walk through a place filled with history, the memories bloom around you, scenting the air like flowers. When you meet someone dear after a long absence, the garden suddenly bursts with blossoms, memories awakened by presence. When you sit quietly in reflection, seeds long dormant may sprout, surprising you with recollections you thought were gone. The hippocampus makes all this possible, silently tending its garden beneath the surface of consciousness, feeding your identity with roots and blossoms you never see. This garden is also where imagination takes root. The same soil that nourishes memory also supports visions of the future. When you imagine tomorrow, the hippocampus uses fragments of past seeds, recombining them into new possibilities. Just as a gardener might weave together flowers to create a new bouquet, your mind weaves experiences into imagined outcomes. This is why memory and imagination are so deeply linked, why those who lose the ability to plant new memories also struggle to envision the future. The hippocampus is not only a garden of what has been, but of what may yet be. The threads of learning, emotion, imagination and identity all meet in this small seahorse-shaped organ. It is both fragile and resilient, vulnerable to disease yet capable of renewal. It is small enough to hold in your hand, yet vast enough to carry the weight of your life story. To see it as a garden is to recognize its dual nature, scientific in function, poetic in essence. It is not merely a structure of neurons, but a living metaphor of growth, connection, and renewal. Every time you remember, you're walking through this garden, touching the blossoms, breathing the scents, marveling at the life that grows quietly within you. Close your eyes and picture it now. Rows of flowers in colours only your mind has seen. Paths lined with experiences. Sunlight filtering through branches of long ago days. Each step you take through this inner garden is a step through yourself, through your story, through the hidden beauty of memory. And know that as long as the hippocampus tends its soil, the garden will continue to grow, tying your past to your present, carrying your essence gently forward into tomorrow. The hippocampus garden is not only a place where memories begin, but also where they are nurtured into harmony with the rest of the brain. To walk deeper into this garden is to notice how carefully it balances order and change, stability and growth. Unlike other organs that carry out predictable cycles, the hippocampus is restless, alive with constant weaving and pruning. It does not allow the garden to become overgrown, nor does it permit the soil to lie barren. It is always adjusting, always reshaping, always tending the subtle balance between remembering and forgetting. In this hidden place, memory is less like a single tree and more like a whole ecosystem. Each memory has roots that intertwine with others, creating networks that strengthen the whole. A smell may root itself beside an image, which in turn is connected to a feeling. Together they form a cluster of growth, so that when one is touched, the others awaken. This is why a small cue, a note of music, the scent of pine, the texture of fabric, can suddenly bring forth an entire world. The hippocampus ties these clusters together, planting them across its fertile ground until the garden is filled with interconnected groves. Yet not every seed is welcomed equally. The hippocampus is selective, guided by attention and emotion. What you notice deeply, what you feel strongly, sinks into the soil with greater strength. Fleeting impressions that pass without care often wash away. Imagine walking through a meadow. The flowers you stop to admire are remembered, while those glanced at in passing fade quickly. The hippocampus works in the same way, ensuring that the garden does not grow cluttered with weeds of irrelevance. This selectivity is not waste but wisdom, allowing the mind to carry forward what truly matters while releasing what does not. Repetition acts like steady rain in this garden. Each time you revisit an idea, practice a skill, or recall a memory, the soil around that plant grows richer, the roots deeper, the branches stronger. Without such rain, even a vibrant plant may wither. This is why practice strengthens memory, why rehearsal keeps knowledge alive, why traditions endure across generations. The hippocampus responds to each drop of repetition, reinforcing pathways, ensuring that the garden flourishes with enduring growth. To forget to water the plants is to let them fade. To return to them often is to let them bloom into permanence. But there is another force at work here: emotion. The amygdala, resting nearby, pours colour into the seeds that reach the hippocampus. A joyful event becomes a bright blossom, while a painful one may leave dark vines curling through the soil. The hippocampus listens to this colouring, giving more attention to what is strongly felt. This is why the laughter of childhood can feel evergreen, while neutral facts often fade. Emotional intensity is like sunlight that penetrates deeply, feeding the growth of certain plants beyond others. The garden is painted not just by experience, but by the light and shade of feeling. Sleep plays the role of the gardener's quiet night work. While the conscious mind rests, the hippocampus sifts through the day's seeds, deciding which to plant more firmly and which to let drift away. This nocturnal pruning and watering ensure that fragile sprouts grow stronger by morning. Dreams may be glimpses of this process, when fragments are shuffled together, sometimes strangely, sometimes beautifully. Though the dream may vanish upon waking, the strengthened roots remain, securing the garden against the erosion of time. Sleep is not merely rest, but a secret tending of memory's soil. The beauty of this system lies in its plasticity. The hippocampus is not fixed, but capable of reshaping itself. When we learn something new, it changes. When we practice, it strengthens. When we rest, it consolidates. Neuroplasticity is the scientific name, but in the garden it is simply growth, the endless capacity to renew. Even into old age, the soil can accept new seeds, though it may do so more slowly. Learning a language, playing an instrument, exploring new places. All these acts keep the soil fertile, encouraging new growth where others might think the land is barren. The hippocampus reminds us that it is never too late to plant. Yet this garden is also vulnerable. Stress acts like drought, drying the soil, making it difficult for seeds to take root. Prolonged anxiety floods the ground with chemicals that hinder growth, shrinking the hippocampus, weakening its ability to plant and tend. Trauma can scorch the soil, leaving certain areas barren. This fragility explains why times of hardship often blur in memory, why it becomes difficult to form new recollections under prolonged stress. The garden is sensitive, requiring care and protection. It thrives in safety and nourishment, but suffers under constant strain. This balance between flourishing and withering is delicate, reminding us to tend not only to our minds but to our lives. Despite its vulnerability, the hippocampus is resilient. Remove stress, add enrichment, and the soil can recover. New neurons can grow, roots can reweave, blossoms can return. This resilience speaks of hope, of the possibility of healing even after loss. Therapies that encourage learning, exercise, and emotional connection act like gentle rains and fresh sunlight, bringing life back to the garden. Though scars may remain, new flowers can bloom beside them, showing that the garden is not defined by its wounds but by its capacity to renew. Another remarkable feature of this garden is its role in spatial memory. The hippocampus not only plants seeds of events, but also maps the landscape of experience. Within its soil are cells that fire in patterns corresponding to places, creating an inner map of the world. This is why you can close your eyes and walk through your home in your mind, why you can recall the path of a favourite journey. These place cells act like vines, connecting the garden to space itself, tying memories not only to time but to location. To remember is often to walk again through places you once loved, guided by the inner map drawn in hippocampal soil. The hippocampus also helps us navigate time. Just as place cells map space, other neurons mark sequences of events, allowing us to recall the order of experiences. These temporal threads are like pathways through the garden leading from one plant to another. Without them, memories would be scattered, disconnected blossoms with no sense of progression. With them, we can tell stories, recall beginnings and endings, understand how yesterday led to today. This sequencing transforms isolated seeds into coherent growth, turning the garden into a storybook of our lives. To walk through this garden is to encounter both abundance and absence. Some areas may flourish with colour while others lie bare, their seeds forgotten. This unevenness is natural. Not every seed can survive, not every plant is meant to endure. The garden reflects not perfection, but life's complexity, the way joy and sorrow, presence and absence, memory and forgetting intertwine. To accept this unevenness is to find peace, to recognise that the garden is beautiful, not because it holds everything, but because it holds enough. Ultimately, the hippocampus garden teaches us that memory is not static storage, but living growth. It is not a library of fixed books, but a field of blooming and fading plants. It thrives on attention, emotion, repetition, and rest. It suffers under stress, but recovers with care. It holds maps of space and time, weaving them into the story of who we are. And it reminds us that identity is not a fixed portrait but a living garden, always changing, always growing, always in bloom, somewhere beneath the surface of our minds. Close your eyes and imagine yourself standing in that inner garden. See the blossoms of joy, the vines of sorrow, the hidden sprouts of lessons not yet revealed. Feel the soil rich with possibility, renewed each day, each night, each breath. Know that within you is this quiet seahorse-shaped gardener, tending tirelessly, planting the seeds of your life, and as long as it works, you will always carry forward the essence of who you are, woven through roots and blossoms, carried by the eternal growth of memory's hidden garden. The garden of the hippocampus, though small in size, carries within it the quiet power to shape the whole of our existence. To bring this story to its soft conclusion, let us linger among its paths a little longer, noticing how this hidden soil not only grows memories, but also gives life to the very sense of being. Each memory planted here is not just a record of the past, but a seed of identity, a thread of continuity, a spark of imagination. To tend the hippocampus is to tend the essence of who we are. Think of the way a single moment can bloom into a forest. You may recall a day at the ocean, the salt on your lips, the sun on your shoulders, the laughter of someone beside you. Each of these details was planted separately, but the hippocampus wove them into a single grove. When you remember that day, You do not recall fragments scattered in isolation. You walk again through the same forest, feeling the same air. The hippocampus makes this possible, binding the pieces into unity. It is not a mere gardener but an artist, shaping memories into landscapes that can be revisited across years. The hippocampus also allows us to weave past and future together. Without it, imagination collapses, for the same soil that grows memory also nourishes vision. To plan a journey, to dream of tomorrow, to picture possibilities, you must draw upon past seeds. The colours of yesterday are used to paint the canvas of tomorrow. This is why those who lose their hippocampus not only forget the present, but also cannot envision the future. They are trapped in a garden without growth, a place where time itself seems still. The hippocampus is not only the keeper of memory, but the gardener of possibility. In its work, the hippocampus also teaches us about balance. Too many seeds planted without order would overwhelm the soil. Too few would leave it barren. Forgetting is as essential as remembering, for it clears space for new blossoms to grow. The hippocampus prunes as well as plants, removing weaker sprouts so that stronger ones may flourish. This pruning is not cruelty but wisdom, ensuring that the garden remains vibrant rather than tangled. In this balance lies peace, the understanding that we do not need to remember everything, only enough to carry meaning forward. The fragility of this balance becomes clear when the hippocampus falters. In illness, the soil dries, the blossoms wilt, the pathways through the garden grow overgrown. Alzheimer's disease, trauma, and other conditions strip the garden of its abundance, leaving gaps where groves once thrived. Families watch as loved ones lose the ability to form new blossoms, their gardens frozen in time. Yet even here, moments of beauty remain. A song can still bloom, a touch can still awaken colour, a smile can still spark growth. The deepest seeds endure, reminding us that memory is not only in the brain but in the body, in the heart, in the soul. Science has traced the workings of this garden with precision. Electrodes measure neurons firing as seeds are planted. Scans reveal blossoms spreading through networks. Chemicals are identified as the waters and sunlight of growth. We know that repetition strengthens roots, that sleep consolidates sprouts, that stress shrivels soil, that love and joy enrich it. Yet for all this knowledge, the garden retains mystery. How can a cluster of cells carry the vastness of a lifetime? How can electricity and chemistry feel like childhood laughter, or the comfort of a familiar embrace? The hippocampus shows us that science and wonder are not opposites but companions, each illuminating different petals of the same flower. In reflecting on this garden, we are reminded of its resilience. Even in hardship, new seeds can be planted, new blossoms can rise. A person can suffer loss, endure trauma, yet still find growth through new experiences. Learning a language, travelling to a new place, falling in love, all can bring fresh life to the hippocampus soil. The garden may be scarred, but it is never beyond renewal. Neurogenesis ensures that even in age, new sprouts can emerge, fragile but real. This is hope embodied in biology, the promise that growth is always possible. The hippocampus garden also reveals the deep unity of mind and body. Physical exercise increases blood flow, nourishing the soil. Enriched environments filled with colour, sound, variety stimulate growth. Relationships look after and love add sunlight, brightening the blossoms. This unity shows us that memory is not only mental but lived. the way we move, the places we explore, the people we cherish, all contribute to the richness of the garden. To live fully is to tend the hippocampus, not through conscious effort, but through joyful engagement with life. Beyond the individual, the hippocampus connects us to one another. Shared experiences become shared groves, planted in many gardens at once. When a family gathers to recall stories, when friends reminisce about adventures, each hippocampus is at work, weaving threads that cross between people. These shared blossoms become part of collective memory, a forest larger than any single garden. In this way, the hippocampus reminds us that memory is not solitary but communal. We are not only gardeners of our own lives, but co-gardeners of one another's, planting blossoms that bloom across generations. As we bring this story to its closing, imagine once more the garden within you. Walk its paths, noticing blossoms of joy, vines of sorrow, quiet patches of peace. See how each plant tells part of your story, how together they form the living landscape of who you are. Feel gratitude for this small seahorse-shaped gardener, working tirelessly, silently, shaping your past, your present, your future. And remember that as long as this garden thrives, you are not only alive, but alive in continuity, carried by roots and blossoms, nourished by soil, blooming always into tomorrow. The hippocampus garden is a testament to the poetry of biology. It is a reminder that even the smallest structures can carry the greatest meaning, that within a space no larger than your thumb rests the story of your life. It is a symbol of growth, resilience, and connection. And so, as you move forward, know that you carry this hidden garden within you, blossoming with each step, weaving your days into a living tapestry. Memory is not only science, but beauty. Not only function, but song. And the hippocampus, your inner garden, is where it all begins. There are moments when a sound, faint and unexpected, rises within us like an echo from far away. Perhaps it is a song once sung in childhood, a melody heard long ago, or the rhythm of a lullaby that lulled us to sleep. We may not recall the words, we may not even recall the time, yet something inside stirs as though awakened. This is the echo of forgotten songs, the way memory whispers from the depths even when details are lost. Science tells us that the brain does not forget completely. It simply quiets some pathways until a spark reawakens them. The music of memory is never fully silenced. The brain is deeply connected to sound. Long before we speak, we hear. Even in the womb, the rhythm of a mother's heartbeat and the muffled tones of voices outside weave themselves into early patterns. These sounds are among the first threads of memory, fragile but powerful, forming associations that remain hidden yet enduring. The hippocampus and auditory cortex work together to store these impressions, and even when we cannot consciously recall them, the echoes linger, waiting for the right note, the right rhythm, to call them back into the light. Consider the way a song from youth can suddenly bring forth an entire era of life. The opening bars of a tune once heard at a school dance or on a long road trip can unfold into vivid images, the smell of summer air, the feeling of nervous excitement, the laughter of friends. These recollections may have been buried for years, but the song pulls them back, alive and whole. This is because music, unlike many other forms of information, binds itself not only to memory but also to emotion. The amygdala dyes the sound with feeling and the hippocampus plants it deeply, ensuring that even if forgotten, it can still bloom when the notes return. Music's power lies also in rhythm and repetition. a melody repeats, and with each cycle the brain strengthens the pathways that hold it. This is why we can remember songs long after we forget conversations, why lyrics stay with us even as details of the day fade. Repetition engraves patterns into the brain like grooves in soil, and rhythm acts as water flowing through those grooves, keeping them open. Even when other memories are lost, music often remains, echoing from the depths of the mind, reminding us that we are more than what we can recall at will. Neurologists have observed this vividly in those with Alzheimer's disease. A patient may forget names, faces, even the present moment, yet when a familiar song is played, they hum along, sometimes even sing with surprising accuracy. The garden of memory may be overgrown, its paths obscured, but music clears a trail. This is because the networks that store musical memory often remain intact longer than others, supported by widespread regions of the brain. Music, unlike words alone, engages multiple systems: rhythm, melody, language, emotion, movement. The echo of forgotten songs is thus one of memory's deepest refuges. The echo is not always conscious. Sometimes a tune drifts through the mind unbidden, a fragment looping endlessly without origin. Psychologists call this an earworm, but it is more than annoyance. It is a reminder that memory is active even when we do not summon it. The hippocampus may release fragments from its storehouse, offering them like birdsong from the thickets of thought. Why certain songs emerge at certain times remains a mystery, but often they are tied to mood, place, or hidden associations. A rhythm may return in moments of stress to soothe, or in times of joy to amplify. These echoes show us that memory has its own voice, whispering even when we are not listening. But memory does not hold songs alone. It carries the voices of those we have loved, the tones of laughter, the phrases repeated in comfort. These are echoes too, forgotten until they return suddenly, carried by silence. A phrase spoken in just the right way can awaken the presence of someone long gone. The timbre of a stranger's voice may stir recognition of a parent or friend. These auditory memories are stored not only as facts but as sensations, wrapped in layers of emotion. They are part of what makes the human experience so deeply intimate. We carry within us the voices of our past, always ready to echo back when the moment calls. The science of memory explains that auditory impressions are tied to networks that span both hemispheres of the brain, giving them resilience. Unlike visual memory, which may fade more quickly, sound has a way of lodging itself more deeply. Perhaps it is because hearing is always active. We cannot close our ears as we close our eyes. We are bathed in sound constantly, and in this sea of vibration, certain notes settle more firmly. The hippocampus sows them in fertile ground, and that they become part of the hidden score of our lives, ready to resurface as echoes, faint but insistent. There is a poetry to the way sound bypasses the rational mind. A song does not need to be analysed to be felt. A rhythm does not require translation to be understood. Long before we had language, we had music. Long before we had stories, we had rhythm. These primal roots may explain why musical memory is so enduring. It taps into ancient circuits, carrying echoes not only of our personal past, but of humanity's shared history. The beating of drums, the chanting of voices, the rising and falling of tones. These patterns connect us to something larger than ourselves, something that feels eternal. The echo of forgotten songs also reveals the interplay between memory and identity. The music we carry shapes who we are. A lullaby ties us to childhood, an anthem to community, a love song to intimacy. When these songs resurface, they remind us not only of moments but of selves we once were. The echo's not simply memory returning, it is identity awakening. To hear an old song is to feel again the person you were when you first heard it, to walk once more in their steps, to breathe once more in their time. This blending of music and self makes the echo uniquely powerful, and yet these echoes are fragile. A song may be remembered in fragments, its words half forgotten, its melody altered. We may hum with uncertainty, filling gaps with imagination, but even so, the echo carries essence, if not detail. The brain reconstructs as best it can, weaving together pieces into something close enough. The result is not accuracy, but resonance, a reminder that memory is less about perfection than about continuity. The echo does not need to be whole to be meaningful. Even a faint refrain can stir the heart, reminding us of something precious carried within. The echoes also guide learning. Music and rhythm are often used as tools to teach because they strengthen memory. A child may struggle to recall facts in isolation but sing them easily when set to melody. The repetition, rhythm, and emotional engagement of music weave information into firmer fabric. This is why alphabets are taught through song, why chants and rhymes persist in education, why rituals use rhythm to ensure memory across generations. The hippocampus listens closely to rhythm, planting it deeply, ensuring that echoes can carry knowledge long after details might fade. And so, the echo of forgotten songs reminds us that memory is not silent but musical. It is a score written across the brain, carried in fragments, awakened by emotion. Even when forgotten, it lingers, waiting to return. Science explains how neurons fire, how networks overlap, how repetition engraves. But the lived experience is more poetic. The sudden rush of recognition when a note awakens a hidden past. The flood of feeling when a song pulls us back to a time we thought was gone. These echoes are not accidents but gifts, reminders that memory is more than storage. It is resonance, vibration, the quiet music of life itself. Close your eyes and listen. Perhaps you can hear it now, the faint strains of a song once dear to you, the cadence of a voice once close, the rhythm of a time long past. The details may be blurred, the words uncertain, but the feeling is clear. This is the echo of forgotten songs, whispering softly through the corridors of the mind, reminding you that nothing is ever entirely lost. Memory is not only seen or thought, it is heard, resonant, eternal, carried in the hidden music of who you are. The echo of forgotten songs deepens when we realize that music and sound are not stored in just one part of the brain, but across many regions, like threads woven through different layers of the fabric of mind. The hippocampus plants the seeds of association, but the auditory cortex holds the notes themselves. The motor cortex remembers the rhythm, and the amygdala dyes the entire memory with feeling. When these regions join together, the song becomes more than sound. It becomes an experience, a blend of melody, motion, and emotion, tied so deeply that even if words vanish, the tune can still return. This is why a melody can linger when language is gone, why rhythm can endure when time itself seems lost. The persistence of music in memory reflects the unique way the brain processes repetition. Each verse of the song, each chorus repeated, each rhythm cycled over and over creates grooves in neural pathways. These grooves are like worn trails in the soil of the mind, easy to walk even after years have passed. This is why songs from childhood are remembered decades later. why religious chants and cultural hymns endure across generations. The brain's natural affinity for repetition makes music one of memory's strongest anchors, tying yesterday to today with remarkable durability. Sound also reaches into memory because it is immersive. Unlike sight, which can be a glance, sound surrounds us, filling space, entering without permission. You cannot close your ears to the world as you close your eyes. Each sound is received even if unnoticed, and the hippocampus quietly decides whether to plant it. This constant exposure means that echoes accumulate, waiting for the right moment to rise. A passing melody in a shop may awaken a song you haven't thought of in years, carrying with it an entire period of your life. The brain has been listening all along, keeping the echoes safe until the right vibration sets them free. What is most striking about musical memory is how closely it ties to emotion. A single chord can bring tears, a harmony can bring joy, a dissonance can stir unease. Scientists have found that the amygdala and nucleus accumbens, centers of emotion and reward, are deeply engaged when music is heard. This explains why even simple songs can evoke profound feelings, why lullabies soothe and anthems inspire. Music is not only remembered, it is felt. The hippocampus does not plant neutral seeds here, but blossoms infused with emotion, ensuring that the echo of forgotten songs carries not just sound, but the soul of experience. Consider the way grief and love are expressed through song. A mourner may sing to honour the lost, a lover may sing to express devotion. These songs become tied to specific people, places and moments. When remembered, they bring not only the melody but the presence of those connected to it. To hear the song again is to feel their nearness, even across years or after death. This intertwining of song and relationship explains why music can make us feel the company of those no longer here, why echoes are sometimes bittersweet, both comforting and sorrowful, both reminder and absence. The brain holds not only the tune, but the heart tied to it. The persistence of music also reveals the role of rhythm in memory. Rhythm organizes time, breaking it into patterns that the brain can follow. This is why clapping hands, tapping feet, or dancing make songs easier to remember. Movement and rhythm activate motor regions, tying memory to the body as well as the mind. Even when the hippocampus falters, the body often remembers the beat. Patients with dementia may struggle to speak, but can still clap in time, still sway to rhythm. The echo of forgotten songs is thus carried not only in thought but in movement, a reminder that memory is embodied, woven into muscles and bones. Language too is shaped by rhythm. Infants learn speech not as isolated words but as melodies, patterns of sound rising and falling. The cadence of voices, the pauses between syllables, the musicality of language all guide memory. This is why poems and rhymes endure, why sacred texts are chanted, why slogans use rhythm to persuade. The hippocampus listens closely to rhythm and melody, planting them more securely than plain words. The echoes of forgotten songs are therefore not limited to music. They extend into speech, poetry, storytelling, the whole realm of human communication. But the echo is not only about survival of songs, it is also about surprise. Often the memory of music is hidden until the right moment reveals it. A forgotten lullaby may return when a parent hums it to a child. An old anthem may rise during a national celebration. A wedding song may echo decades later when played for an anniversary. These surprises remind us of the depth of memory, of how much is held beneath awareness. The hippocampus is a quiet gardener. but it is also a keeper of mysteries, holding more seeds than we realize, letting them bloom unexpectedly when the right season arrives. Science has begun to explore why music can be therapeutic, particularly for those with memory loss. Songs stimulate wide networks, crossing boundaries between memory, emotion, and movement. This makes them powerful tools for recovery. Patients who cannot recall names may sing lyrics with ease. Those who struggle to speak may find voice through melody. Music therapy draws upon this resilience, awakening echoes that seem lost, reconnecting people to themselves and to others. The echo of forgotten songs thus becomes more than memory. It becomes healing, a bridge across gaps that illness has created. The universality of music strengthens this healing power. Every culture sings, every society has rhythm, every human carries melodies within. Though the instruments differ, the echoes are the same. Songs are passed down across generations, becoming part of collective memory. A folk song may carry centuries of history, its melody unchanged, its echoes binding people together across time. In this way, the hippocampus does not only plant personal songs but also cultural ones, ensuring that the music of humanity itself endures. Even when forgotten by individuals, these echoes live on in the group, ready to rise again when voices join. The poetry of the echo lies in its ability to carry more than sound. It carries belonging, identity, history, love. To hear a forgotten song is to remember not only a tune, but a self, a people, a place. It is to feel again the thread of continuity that ties the present to the past. And because the hippocampus uses the same soil for memory and imagination, the echo can also inspire the future. A remembered melody may spark creativity, leading to new songs, new stories, new connections. The echo is not only return but renewal, not only memory but possibility. And so the echoes of forgotten songs are among the most beautiful reminders that memory is not a simple archive but a living, resonant force. Science explains the networks, the synapses, the rhythms, but the lived experience is that of surprise, of recognition, of emotion. It is the rush of hearing a note that takes you back, the warmth of singing a lullaby to a new child, the tears that come with a song of love or loss. The echoes tell us that nothing is ever entirely gone, that even what seems forgotten may still rise, faint but strong, like music carried on the wind. Close your eyes and listen again. What melodies live within you, waiting to echo back? Perhaps it is a lullaby, perhaps a hymn, perhaps the simple hum of someone dear. Let it rise in your mind. Let it remind you that the garden of memory holds not only sights and thoughts, but songs, not only stories, but music. These echoes are part of you, as enduring as the rhythm of your heart, as gentle as the breath you take, as timeless as the wind that carries sound across the world. The echo of forgotten songs is not only a personal phenomenon, but a universal one, carrying the weight of both individual lives and collective histories. To bring this story to its gentle close, let us listen more carefully to how these echoes shape who we are, how they return when least expected, and how they remind us that memory is not silence but song. The brain is not merely a recorder of events, it is an instrument, resonating with vibrations that linger long after the original sound has faded. To remember is to hear again the faint music of yesterday. When we consider memory through the lens of music, we see how deeply time and sound are intertwined. Music organizes time into rhythm marking beats, repeating patterns, stretching moments into melodies. Memory does something similar. It takes the flow of experience, marks certain beats, repeats certain lessons, stretches certain feelings. Together, music and memory create continuity, allowing us to feel that life is not chaos but song. When we recall, it is like replaying a melody. When we forget, it's like silence between notes. But silence is not absence, it is part of the music, giving shape to sound. Forgetting too gives memory its rhythm. The echoes of songs also show us that memory is not perfect reproduction, but interpretation. A melody remembered is often slightly altered, the tempo shifted, the words blurred, the pitch uncertain. Yet we recognize it. The essence remains, even if the details change. This is the same with all the memory. We may not recall exactly what was said, but we recall the feeling. We may not remember the order of events, but we remember their meaning. Like a song sung by different voices, memory changes with each recall, but the melody still carries truth. It is less about accuracy than resonance, less about precision than recognition. In many ways, the echoes are stronger than the originals. A song heard in youth and remembered decades later may carry more emotion than it did at first. This is because memory enriches with context. When the melody returns, it brings not only the original moment but all the years since, all the selves we have been, all the longings we carry. The echo becomes layered, deepened by time, transformed into something greater than it once was. Science may describe this as reconsolidation, but in the poetry of life it is simply growth. The echo blooming into harmony with the present. There is also a healing quality in these echoes. For those who have lost much to illness or age, music offers a bridge back to themselves. A patient who cannot recall the names of their children may still sing the lullabies they once used to soothe them. In that moment, connection is restored, not only for the listener but for those around them. The echo allows love to cross the gaps left by forgetting, to remind both the one who remembers and the one who forgets that the bond still exists. These moments are fragile, fleeting yet profound. They show us that memory is not only cognitive but emotional, not only science but grace. Music also strengthens community, for echoes are amplified when shared. A congregation singing together, a crowd chanting in unison, a family gathering around a familiar song, all create a resonance that no single memory could achieve alone. These shared echoes bind people together, giving them a sense of belonging, of continuity across generations. Even when individuals forget, the group remembers. A cultural song carries the weight of centuries, its echoes passing from voice to voice, planting seeds in countless hippocampi. In this way, the echo of forgotten songs is not only personal but collective, reminding us that we are part of something larger than ourselves. The universality of musical memory hints at its evolutionary roots. Long before written language, our ancestors used rhythm and song to communicate, to teach, to remember. Knowledge of hunting, migration, and ritual was preserved in chants and melodies. Songs were vessels of survival, carrying wisdom across generations. The echoes of these ancient songs still live in us, shaping the way we respond to rhythm and melody. Science traces the neural pathways, but poetry tells us that music is woven into our being, older than speech, older than story, as ancient as heartbeat and breath. The echoes remind us of this timeless connection. Even slowness can be part of the echo. A song unfinished in the mind still resonates, its absence felt as strongly as its presence. A voice once dear but no longer heard lingers in memory, echoing in the quiet space. This sadness is not emptiness, but memory's pause, allowing us to feel the weight of what has been lost. The echo of forgotten songs is not always joyful. It can be sorrowful, aching, filled with longing. Yet even in sorrow it connects us, reminding us that what was once loved is still part of us, carried in the vibrations of the mind. Imagination too is guided by these echoes. Composers, poets and storytellers often draw upon remembered melodies to create new works. A faint echo may inspire a symphony, a remembered rhythm may guide a poem, a forgotten chant may spark a story. The hippocampus does not only store the past but recombines it into futures. In this way, the echo of forgotten songs fuels creativity, turning memory into art, past into possibility. The faint strains of yesterday become the foundations of tomorrow's music. To reflect on these echoes is to understand that memory is never silent. Even when forgotten, it leaves traces that can return. Even when hidden, it vibrates beneath awareness. Even when altered, it carries meaning. The echo of forgotten songs teaches us that memory is less about holding tightly than about letting resonance linger. What we carry within us is not only detail but essence, not only fact but feeling. And it is this essence, this feeling, that makes us human. So let us listen one last time. Hear the faint song rising from within, the melody of your life woven of lullabies, anthems, voices, and laughter. Some parts may be clear, others blurred, some joyful, others sing. Yet together they form your score, your music, your memory. And know that even if you forget, the echoes will remain, whispering through the corridors of the mind, carried by neurons and emotions, kept alive in the garden of memory. The echo of forgotten songs is never truly lost, for it is woven into the very fabric of who you are, resonating quietly, endlessly like music drifting on the wind of time. In the vast landscape of the mind, there are certain memories that shine like lanterns, casting light across the corridors of time. They do not flicker out easily, nor do they vanish with the passing of days. Instead, they glow steadily, illuminating our path, reminding us of who we are and where we have come from. Scientists call this long-term memory, but to think of it as lanterns is to see its poetry. Each lantern holds a flame that has endured, carrying forward the warmth of experience, the glow of knowledge, the steady light of identity. Unlike the fragile sparks of working memory or the ripples of short-term recall, long-term memory endures like embers kept alive in the hearth. Some flames are bright, vivid with detail, painting moments so clearly that they feel as if they happened yesterday. Others are softer, more diffuse, glowing gently with essence rather than precision. Yet all lanterns serve the same purpose. They give light to the present by carrying the past. Without them, we would stumble in darkness, unable to recognize faces, understand language, or know ourselves. There are many kinds of lanterns in this memory hall. Some hold episodic memories, the personal stories of our lives, rich with images, sounds, and emotions. They are the lanterns that allow us to relive birthdays, journeys, loves, and losses. Others hold semantic memories, the facts and knowledge we gather, the meanings of words, the shapes of continents, the laws of nature. These lanterns shine with clarity, guiding us in reasoning and learning. Still others hold procedural memories, the skills and habits we acquire, like riding a bicycle, playing an instrument, or tying a knot. These lanterns are often hidden, glowing quietly beneath awareness, lighting our actions without requiring thought. The hippocampus is the place where many of these lanterns are first lit, but once their flames are strong, they are carried outward into the cortex, stored in the wide expanse of the brain. This distribution makes them durable. Even if one area falters, others may preserve the glow. This is why certain skills or facts remain even when other memories fade. The lanterns are not kept in one chamber but scattered across many, ensuring that the light of the self is not easily extinguished. The process of transferring a memory into long-term storage is like tending a flame. At first it is small, fragile, flickering. Repetition fans it, emotion strengthens it, sleep shields it from the winds of forgetting. With care it grows into a steady glow, one that can burn for years, even decades. Without care it may sputter and fade, lost before it can take hold. This is why practice and meaning are so essential to learning. To plant knowledge without revisiting it is like lighting a candle and leaving it unattended. To nurture it is to tend the flame until it becomes a lantern strong enough to endure the storms of time. Emotion again plays its role here, colouring which lanterns shine brightest. We may forget countless ordinary meals, but remember vividly the one shared during love or grief. We may forget routine walks, but recall clearly the one taken on the day of life-changing news. Emotion provides the fuel that ensures the flame will not go out. It is why joy and sorrow endure, why songs of love and loss remain with us, why moments of deep meaning shine more brightly than years of repetition. The lanterns that matter most are those lit not only by experience but by feeling. As these lanterns accumulate, they form constellations across the mind, patterns of light that guide us through life. Some are clustered around childhood, glowing with innocence and discovery. Others shine from adolescence, filled with the intensity of growth and change. Still others illuminate adulthood, steady with responsibility, softened with reflection. Together they create a map of light, showing us not only where we have been, but who we have become. To walk through this hall of lanterns is to walk through the story of one's life, guided always by familiar glows. The endurance of long-term memory also shows us the resilience of the mind. People may forget short-term details, may misplace names or dates, but the deeper lanterns remain. A grandparent may not recall what was said an hour ago, but can still tell stories from decades past with clarity. These older lanterns shine steadily, their flames long tended, their lights strong against the winds of time. This resilience offers comfort, reminding us that even as some memories fade, others remain to guide us, carrying continuity when all else seems uncertain. The brain protects these lanterns through reinforcement. Each time we recall a memory, we polish the glass, strengthen the flame, renew the light. This is why storytelling, teaching, and reflection keep memories alive. To share a memory is to tend its lantern, ensuring it does not dim. Collective remembrance works the same way. When communities recall their histories through ritual, song, and story, they polish the lanterns of culture, keeping them bright for future generations. The glow of memory is thus both personal and communal, carried by individuals but sustained by groups. Yet the lanterns are not eternal. Some eventually dim, their light softening until only a faint glow remains. We may strain to recall details once vivid, finding only fragments. This fading is natural, for the brain, like a wise keeper, makes room for new lanterns. Forgetting is not failure but rhythm, part of the dance of light and darkness. The lanterns that remain are those most essential, those most nourished by repetition and meaning. Their glow ensures that even when details fade, essence persists. We may not recall every face, but we remember love. We may not recall every word, but we remember wisdom. The flame burns on in what matters most. The beauty of long-term memory is that it bridges time. To recall something from years ago is to bring its lantern forward, to light the present with the glow of the past. This act of remembrance is not only cognitive but emotional, reconnecting us to earlier selves. When you recall your childhood, you walk once more in those small shoes, see once more with those bright eyes, feel once more with that open heart. The lantern allows you to visit who you were, to carry them into who you are. Memory makes identity continuous, a single flame carried across the years. Close your eyes now and imagine your own hall of lanterns. See them glowing in the quiet of the mind, each one a story, a lesson, a song. Some shine brightly, others faintly, but together they form the constellation of you. Walk among them, feel their warmth, see how their light overlaps, creating patterns of meaning. This is the gift of long-term memory, to hold the light of the past in such a way that it guides the present, comforts the heart, and illuminates the path into tomorrow. To walk deeper into the Hall of Lanterns is to discover that each flame is not a simple light but a carefully tended fire, shaped by the way the brain stores and protects memory. Long-term memory is remarkable not only because it lasts, but because it organizes itself into categories and patterns, giving meaning to the vastness of experience. Without this organization, the hall would be chaotic, lanterns scattered without order. Instead, there is structure, semantic knowledge illuminating the world, episodic memories shining with personal meaning, and procedural skills glowing silently beneath awareness. Together they create a symphony of light, a pattern that gives coherence to the story of a life. Semantic memory, the lantern of knowledge, provides clarity. It tells us that Paris is a city in France, that water boils at 100 degrees, that the earth circles the sun. These lanterns are less personal but deeply important, allowing us to navigate the shared world. They form a library of facts and concepts, polished through learning and reinforced by use. Each time we recall a fact, the lantern glows brighter, more reliable, easier to find in the darkness. Without these lights, we would be lost in confusion, unable to speak, reason, or understand. They are the lanterns that illuminate the landscape of thought itself. Episodic memory, the lantern of experience, glows more personally. It holds the stories of our lives. The first day of school, the face of a dear friend, the taste of a favourite meal. These lanterns flicker with emotion, for they are lit not only by fact, but by feeling. The amygdala fuels their flames, making them burn more brightly when joy, fear, or love is present. This is why we remember not just what happened, but how it felt. Episodic lanterns are like glowing windows into the past, allowing us to step back into moments as if they were still alive. They are among the most treasured lights, for they carry the essence of who we have been. Procedural memory, the lantern of skill, shines in a different way. It is not always visible, yet it guides us constantly. When you ride a bicycle, play a piano, or type without thinking, you are guided by this hidden glow. These lanterns are lit through repetition, their flames steady and enduring, often lasting even when other lights dim. This is why patients with memory loss can still play instruments they learned long ago, why muscle memory survives even when episodic memory fades. These lanterns illuminate action, carrying knowledge in the body as much as the mind. They are the steady fires that keep us moving forward without pause. The endurance of long-term memory lies in consolidation, the gradual strengthening of synaptic pathways. When an experience first occurs, it is fragile, like a candle newly lit. If revisited, if rehearsed, if emotionally significant, the hippocampus works with the cortex to carry the flame into deeper storage. Over time, the memory becomes less dependent on the hippocampus, glowing steadily in the outer regions of the brain. This process may take hours, days, or even years, but once complete, the lantern is hard to extinguish. It can flicker, but its light endures, casting illumination across decades. Repetition and rehearsal are the breath that keeps these flames alive. Each time you recall, you strengthen the glow. Each time you teach or tell a story, you polish the glass, making the lantern brighter. This is why elders who recount their life stories preserve them more clearly. Why students who practice recall remember better than those who only review. To engage with memory is to tend the flame, to ensure that the lantern does not grow dim. Forgetting comes when we neglect to revisit, when the flame is left unfed. Yet even then, a spark may remain, waiting for the right cue to reignite the glow. Emotion again plays a decisive role. Memories tied to joy, fear, or sorrow are polished more often, for the heart returns to them naturally. A first love may glow endlessly even without deliberate recall, while countless neutral days fade quietly. The amygdala ensures that emotionally charged moments are carried more deeply into long-term storage. This is why anniversaries, tragedies, and celebrations shine so vividly, their lanterns casting light far longer than routine. They remind us that memory is not neutral but coloured, not only about what happened but about what mattered. The Hall of Lanterns is not static. The flames move, shift, and sometimes change colour. Each time we recall, we do not simply retrieve a fixed light, we relight it, sometimes altering its hue. Details may shift, feelings may intensify or soften, meanings may change. Memory is reconstructive, a living process, not a frozen record. The lanterns endure, but they do so as dynamic fires, reflecting both past and present. This explains why two people may recall the same event differently, why our own memories change with time, why the glow of a lantern tells us not only what happened, but how we now see it. This reconstructive quality allows for healing. Painful memories can be revisited and reshaped, their lantern softened through reflection or therapy. A memory once tied to shame can be reframed as growth. A tragedy once unbearable can be remembered with gratitude for resilience. The flames do not go out, but they can burn differently. This adaptability is a gift, allowing us to carry the past without being trapped by it. The lanterns may still glow, but their light becomes gentler, guiding rather than wounding, illuminating rather than burning. Sleep plays its vital role here as well. During rest, the hippocampus and cortex exchange signals, replaying the patterns of the day, deciding which flames to strengthen. Dreams may be glimpses of this process, the brain relighting lanterns in the strange sequences, mixing fragments into surreal scenes. Yet behind the strangeness lies purpose. The consolidation of memory, the tending of flames. This is why sleep improves recall, why rest strengthens learning. The hall of lanterns glows brighter after the quiet work of the night. The endurance of long-term memory also ties us to imagination. The same lanterns used to recall the past are used to envision the future. When you picture yourself in a place you've never been, you borrow light from past lanterns to illuminate the unknown. The glow of experience becomes the glow of possibility. This explains why those who lose long-term memory also struggle to imagine. Without lanterns, the hall is dark. Without light, the path ahead is obscured. Memory is not only backward-looking, but forward-shining, a guide into what has not yet come. And so, as we continue through this hall, we begin to see that the lanterns are not merely about storage, but about identity. Each flame is part of the constellation that forms the self. To lose them is to lose pieces of who we are. To keep them is to carry continuity, to know that we are the same person who once walked in childhood, who once dreamed in youth, who once loved and lost and learned. The lanterns tie us to ourselves, making life a single unfolding story rather than a series of disconnected moments. Close your eyes now and picture your lanterns again. See the library of knowledge, the windows of experience, the steady fires of skill. Notice how they glow together, forming a hall of light within you. Each one is a flame carried forward, each one a guide through the darkness. This is the beauty of long-term memory, the endurance of light, the persistence of identity, the gentle glow that ensures we are never lost in time. The lanterns of long-term memory stand as some of the most enduring lights within the human mind, and as we bring their story to a gentle close, it is worth reflecting on how these flames guide not only our thoughts but also our lives. Each lantern shines with a different hue, some bright with knowledge, some soft with emotion, some hidden yet steady with skill. Together, they create a constellation of light, an inner sky that follows us wherever we go. To walk among these lanterns is to walk among the essence of who we are, illuminated quietly, continuously by memory's glow. When we recall a cherished moment, we are not simply pulling it from storage. We are relighting its lantern, feeling again the warmth of its flame. The hippocampus and cortex work together like careful keepers tending the wick, ensuring that the glow returns. Sometimes the light is sharp and vivid, revealing every detail of a scene. Other times it is faint, like a lantern glimpsed from afar. More suggestion than image, more feeling than fact. But whether clear or dim, the light remains part of the whole, contributing to the overall radiance that gives us continuity. Without these lanterns, life would feel like endless fragments. With them, it becomes a story connected across time. The endurance of these lanterns also shows us that memory is layered. Some lights are surface level, easy to access, glowing like lamps along a path. Others are deeper, tucked away in hidden chambers, requiring effort or the right cue to reveal. We may forget where we placed a key, but recall vividly a scene from decades past. The mind does not always prioritize the practical, it often treasures the meaningful. Emotion, repetition, and context decide which lanterns shine most brightly, which are placed at the front of the hall, and which rest in the background. This ordering reveals not just how memory works, but what matters most to us. In times of hardship, these lanterns provide strength. When we face difficulty, we remember past challenges overcome, lanterns that remind us of resilience. When we feel sorrow, we recall moments of love, lanterns that remind us of joy. Even in grief, the lanterns of shared experience glow, comforting us with the presence of those we have lost. Their physical presence may be gone, but their lanterns remain in us, lighting the path forward. In this way, memory ensures that no love, no lesson, no moment of meaning is ever entirely extinguished. The flame may be small, but it endures. Science shows us how durable these lanterns can be. Skills practiced for years may remain even after illness takes other forms of memory. Knowledge reinforced through teaching may shine long after details fade. Emotional memories tied deeply to the amygdala may persist even when facts are gone. This resilience explains why music, rituals, and habits remain powerful for those facing memory loss. The lanterns may dim, but their core light continues to glow. They remind us that the essence of memory is not precision but endurance, not detail but meaning, not permanence but continuity. The Hall of Lanterns also reveals the creative power of memory. When we imagine, we borrow light from existing flames, combining them into new constellations. A painter recalling colours, a writer recalling scenes, a scientist recalling principles, all draw upon lanterns of knowledge and experience to create something new. This blending is not only backward-looking, but forward-shaping. Memory provides the light, and imagination rearranges it into patterns never seen before. The lanterns thus illuminate not only the past, but the future, guiding both recollection and creation. Yet the lanterns are not immune to change. Each time we recall, we relight, and in relighting we may alter the flame. Sometimes the lantern grows brighter with repetition, sometimes it shifts in hue, sometimes it flickers differently than before. This reconstructive nature is both imperfection and gift. It means that memories can adapt, that painful flames can soften, that the hall itself is alive, never static. The lanterns are not fixed relics, but living lights, reflecting both who we were and who we are now. They evolve with us, ensuring that memory remains not a museum, but a living presence. As we grow older, we carry these lanterns with increasing reverence. Childhood lights may glow faint but warm, while more recent lanterns shine brightly. We walk through the hall often, lingering among the flames that mean most to us, polishing them with stories, strengthening them with reflection. Even when some lanterns dim, others remain, ensuring that we are never in darkness. And when we pass from this world, the lanterns we have tended do not vanish entirely. They continue to glow in the memories of others, carried into their halls, shared across generations. In this way, memory transcends the individual, weaving lanterns into the greater fabric of humanity. Culture itself is a vast hall of lanterns, filled with the flames of shared stories, histories, songs, and rituals. Each person adds to this light, contributing their glow to the collective. A lullaby sung for centuries, a tale retold across generations, a tradition carried through time. These are lanterns polished by countless hands, their flames enduring long after individual lives have passed. They guide societies just as personal lanterns guide individuals, offering identity, belonging, continuity. The lanterns of culture remind us that memory is not only personal but communal, not only private but shared, not only fragile but enduring. The final gift of these lanterns is peace, to know that we carry within us a hall of light, to know that even as some flames dim, others endure, to know that the glow of memory ties us to ourselves, to others, to time. This is comfort. Memory may not be perfect, but it is luminous. It may not hold every detail, but it holds what matters. It may not preserve everything, but it preserves enough. The lanterns ensure that we are never lost in total darkness, that there is always some light to guide us forward. They are the quiet companions of our journey, steady flames in the winds of life. So let us pause here, in the glow of these lanterns, and look around. See how the flames overlap, how they cast gentle light upon one another, how together they form the living constellation of your story. Some flames are bright, some faint, some hidden, but all are part of you. Walk through the hall with gratitude, for each lantern is a gift, each light a reminder, each flame a part of your being. And as you step forward into tomorrow, know that you carry these lanterns with you, illuminating the path, guiding your way, ensuring that your story is never lost to the night. Memory is light, and you are its keeper, forever tending the lanterns of long-term memory.